Welcome back to Secrets of Superpowers. In the final, desperate months of World War II, as the Soviet army advanced relentlessly across Eastern Europe, a different kind of war was being waged by the remnants of the Third Reich. A war to conceal the staggering wealth they had systematically looted. Today, we journey deep into the mountains and forgotten tunnels of Lower Silesia, Poland. This is the heart of the legend, the epicenter of the most persistent, captivating, and maddening treasure hunt in modern history. We are searching for the Nazi gold train, a phantom locomotive allegedly laden with 300 tons of gold, diamonds, priceless art, and technological secrets. A treasure train that vanished without a trace into a secret tunnel system near the city of Wałbrzych. The story of the gold train is often dismissed as mere folklore, but the evidence of a massive, systematic effort to hide the Reich's entire fortune is undeniable. We'll explore the real-life historical project, Project Riese, which created the very tunnels that could conceal it. We will look at the decades of searching, the 2015 frenzy when two men claimed they finally found it, and the enduring questions about what the Reich truly intended to hide, gold or something far more dangerous. Prepare for a deep dive into tunnels and shadows. This is the definitive story of the Nazi gold train and the lost fortunes of the Third Reich. The historical context. Operation Riese, Project Giant. The story of the vanished train is inextricably linked to a massive, genuine construction project known as Project Riese, or Giant, in the Ural Mountains of Lower Silesia, now Poland. Between 1943 and 1945, thousands of slave laborists were driven to carve out an enormous complex of underground tunnels, bunkers, and military facilities. This was an unparalleled act of subterranean construction, intended to serve as Hitler's final, bomb-proof headquarters and as a relocation point for arms manufacturing. Geographically, Riese is a labyrinth scattered across the Soe Mountains, with 7 known underground structures, including complexes at Włodarz, Osoka, and Wałbrzych. The sheer effort was staggering. Workers, primarily prisoners from the Gross Rosen concentration camp, excavated over 100,000 cubic meters of rock. The construction conditions were brutal, earning Riese the chilling nickname the Underground Auschwitz due to the high mortality rate among the forced laborists. The tunnels are vast, rough-cut, and still largely unexplored. The official purpose was military. The conspiratorial purpose, however, was to create massive, secret holding facilities, a global bank vault for the Reich. The incomplete state of Riese is key to the mystery. When Soviet forces arrived, the complex was less than 50% finished. The Germans, however, had enough time to seal off what they had completed. It is widely believed that multiple key sections were deliberately blown up or backfilled to conceal the entrances to deeper, final bunkers, making the entire mountain range a massive, self-sealing treasure chest. The key question is not if the tunnels exist, but how many of them were completed, and what was sealed inside when the Soviets pushed through in early 1945. The sheer scale of Riese provides the perfect, geographically plausible hiding place for a gold train and much more. The birth of the legend, a deathbed confession. The specific legend of the gold train was born decades after the war, solidified by a single source. In 1999, a man named Tadeusz Slowakowski, a retired mine worker who had searched the area for years, was contacted by a German man claiming to have been involved in the train's disappearance. This man, identified as Hans Ettner, or perhaps just Hans, gave a crucial, detailed deathbed confession. Hans claimed that in the final weeks of the war, a heavily armored, 150-meter-long train, carrying gold, industrial materials, and priceless assets, was driven into a sealed-off railway siding tunnel connected to the Riese Complex. Hans provided specific, though often vague, geographic markers. His confession was the spark that ignited the modern treasure hunt, giving the phantom train a specific location and narrative. Right between the 65th and 61st kilometers of the railway line near Wałbrzych. The staggering cargo, gold and more. The traditional description of the train's contents is breathtaking: 300 tons of gold in bar form, alongside thousands of kilograms of platinum, rare jewels, and industrial diamonds. This wealth was meticulously looted from the Reichsbank reserves, occupied countries, and private citizens. To put this into perspective, 300 metric tons of gold at today's prices would be worth over $20 billion. This figure includes the infamous Bank of Poland gold, much of which was seized in 1939. However, a significant portion is also believed to be Melma gold, gold harvested from Holocaust victims, including wedding rings, dental gold, and personal valuables, which was smelted into ingots marked with a distinct Melma signature. This adds a dark, moral dimension to the treasure hunt. However, many experts believe that if a train was sealed, its cargo would be far more strategic than just monetary value. The Reich was desperate to save its most valuable intellectual assets. Thus, the train may have contained Wunderwaffe blueprints, components for anti-gravity or nuclear programs, sensitive documents, or even the chemical components, like Cerium-525 or other isotopes, needed to continue their secret weapons research, potentially linked to our previous discussion of Die Glock. Specifically, there is a persistent, though unproven, rumor that the train carried components related to the Nazi nuclear program, possibly uranium oxide or heavy water, which were being moved away from the advancing fronts. The train's alleged heavily armored structure, often mentioned in descriptions, would make sense if it were carrying radioactive or highly volatile materials, rather than just soft gold bars. The train was not just a bank vault. It was a technological time capsule meant to secure the future of the Fourth Reich. The 2015 media frenzy. The legend exploded onto the global stage in August 2015. Point 2 self-proclaimed treasure hunters, Piotr Kopper, Polish, and Andreas Richter, German, publicly claimed they had located the train using ground-penetrating radar, GPR. Their GPR images, though blurry and disputed, appeared to show a man-made tunnel structure and, crucially, a 100-meter-long anomaly, consistent with the dimensions of the lost train, at a depth of about 9 meters. The news triggered an immediate, intense media frenzy. The Polish government officially announced that they had almost certain proof of the train's existence. The military was briefly mobilized to secure the potential site due to concerns over booby traps, which Hans Ettner had also warned about. The quiet Polish town of Wałbrzych became the global epicenter of the treasure hunt. The excavation and disappointment, despite the initial euphoria and government support. The actual excavation, which began in 2016, proved anticlimactic. The search effort was highly professional and expensive, costing hundreds of thousands of dollars. Financed primarily by private investors and later supported by local authorities eager to capitalize on the tourism boom. The initial 2016 phase involved drilling 35 deep test bores, or shafts, into the ground. When the cameras arrived, they expected to see metal. Instead, they found dirt, rock, and the geological anomalies predicted by the Krakow Academy of Mining and Metallurgy after months of intensive, expensive digging. Copper and Richter found no train, no tracks, and no gold. The anomaly they had detected with GPR was determined by geologists to be a natural formation, likely a large layer of ice or, less dramatically, simply loose, subterranean debris. The disappointment was immense. The treasure hunters faced global ridicule. Yet they, and many locals, remained convinced that their initial radar readings, taken before the ground was disturbed, were accurate, suggesting that the true location was slightly different, or the tunnel was deeper. The main conflict was political and scientific. Copper and Richter used a simpler, high-frequency GPR, while the Krakow scientists used a more powerful, low-frequency sensor. The debate centers on whether the low-frequency equipment was too insensitive to detect a metal structure buried deep inside a large, moist natural cavity, or whether the high-frequency readings were simply misinterpreted reflections off ice or water. Though the official search ended, the core belief in the train's existence only solidified among many enthusiasts. The missing art, from the Amber Room to Raphael. The gold train is only the most famous of the Reich's lost treasures. The systematic looting by the Nazis was monumental. Known as Sonderauftrag Linz, Special Commission Linz, the most legendary artistic prize that vanished was the Amber Room, an entire chamber constructed from amber panels, gold leaf, and precious stones, which was dismantled in 1941 from the Catherine Palace near St. Petersburg. The last reliable sighting was in Königsberg, now Kaliningrad. The fate of the Amber Room is perhaps the most vexing art mystery of the 20th century. While some theories suggest it was destroyed in the Königsberg bombing, others place it firmly in the Riese Complex. A local Polish man claimed years ago to have seen the crates being unloaded near the Osoka tunnel complex. This directly links the art mystery to the train's hiding spot, suggesting the entire area was a designated final warehouse for the Reich's most valuable assets. Other lost treasures include hundreds of tons of gold from various bank reserves across Europe, priceless works of art, including pieces by Raphael, Caravaggio, and Van Gogh, stored in various castles and mines, such as those in the Altorsee salt mine. The sheer quantity of the missing loot confirms that the Reich made a massive, organized effort to conceal its assets before the final collapse. The gold train is simply one highly romanticized method of concealment. The international claim wars. The mere possibility of the train's existence immediately triggered a fierce international debate over ownership, a conflict often more intriguing than the search itself. Poland's position was clear. Any property found on Polish soil, regardless of its origin, belongs to the Polish treasury. This stance, however, was heavily challenged. Russia was the first to stake a significant claim. As the legal successor to the Soviet Union, Moscow argued that any Nazi treasure, particularly gold, and art stolen from its territories, represents reparations for the massive damage inflicted during the war. Russian officials publicly demanded a share of the potential find, adding a tense, diplomatic layer to the local treasure hunt. Furthermore, the World Jewish Restitution Organization, WJRO, also stepped in, demanding that any valuables traced back to Holocaust victims, the aforementioned Melma gold, must be returned to the heirs and families of the victims, providing a moral counterpoint to the national claims of Poland and Russia. Thus, the discovery of the gold train would not be a simple excavation. It would be the start of a multi-billion-dollar international legal and ethical battle, a final, messy epilogue to the Second World War. Operation Goldfasan, the code name for Plunder. The transportation of this immense wealth wasn't random. It was a highly organized, military-grade operation. The code name for this massive transfer of looted assets, primarily gold and art, was Operation Goldfasan, Operation Golden Pheasant. This operation was coordinated by the infamous SS General Hans Kammler, who was also in charge of the Riese project and the construction of V-2 rocket facilities. The fact that the same high-ranking SS officer was in command of both the construction of the underground network and the movement of the Reich's most valuable assets provides a compelling, direct link between the Riese tunnels and the lost gold. The Goldfasan transports weren't single trains. They were a series of movements, making it entirely plausible that one of them was indeed shunted into a sealed-off spur of the Riese Complex, as Hans Etna claimed. This confirms the organized nature of the concealment. Other hiding places, lakes, mines, and the Alpine Redoubt. The Reich used numerous, complex methods to hide their wealth. Not just tunnels. One key strategy was submerging wealth in deep bodies of water. For instance, Lake Toplitz in Austria became infamous after Allied forces discovered containers of counterfeit British banknotes, Operation Bernard, at the bottom. Many believe that other, more valuable caches of gold and documents were sunk in Toplitz or other Alpine lakes. Furthermore, the salt mines of Altor See in Austria served as a major repository for stolen art, including Michelangelo's Madonna of Bruges, but rumors persist that the most valuable gold and confidential documents were hidden in secondary, sealed-off shafts before the Allies arrived. These complex methods were all part of the larger strategic vision known as the Alpine Redoubt, a final, impenetrable fortress in the Alps intended to be the last stand for the Nazi elite. The Riese tunnels in Silesia were essentially the northern supply depot for this final vision. These varied, complex methods of concealment underscore the truth. The search for the Nazi gold train is really a search for the final, definitive hiding place of a fortune intended to finance a world after Hitler. Conclusion and the enduring hunt. The mystery of the Nazi gold train persists not because of ironclad proof, but because of the vast, undeniable scale of the wealth the Reich stole, and the undeniable fact of the Project Riese tunnels, a ready-made hiding place. The gold train. Whether it is $20 billion in Melma gold or the blueprints for the Fourth Reich superweapons, remains a powerful symbol, a tangible representation of the dark, final ambition of the Third Reich to ensure its legacy survived its physical defeat. Even after the official search ended in 2016, enthusiasts, historians, and locals continue to believe. For them, the train is still there, locked away in the freezing darkness of the Al Mountains, waiting to be found. The only certainty is that the secrets sealed in 1945 are still buried, waiting for the one person to solve this historical riddle. The hunt is eternal. Thank you for joining us on this deep exploration of history, legend, and greed. The question remains, what do you believe is the true content of the Nazi gold train? Is it gold or blueprints for the next generation of superweapons? Let us know your theory in the comments below. If the chilling secrets of the past captivate you, be sure to like this video and subscribe to Secrets of Superpowers. Next time, we will explore the fate of the scientists who created this technology, Operation Paperclip, the race between the US and the Soviets to capture the brains of the Reich. See you in the next episode.